Welcome back, everyone. This is Austin Reville here with my brother, Alex. From
He always calls me Alex.
Alexander.
He's been doing this since we were kids.
Stendo clip. How's that?
Stendo clip. You got any of them Stendo clips?
Make sure you follow him at Stendo clip over there on the YouTube sphere. YouTube's on
which
the line.
Is basically like just a communist. We're not going to get into that. We're on YouTube, so we probably can't say too many bad things about it. But
you guys,
there's definitely some issues.
Censored anything? Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Maybe I should cut that. I don't know.
Whatever. It's Stendo Clip. Stendo Clip is actually really funny. So I used to work behind a gun counter at a huge retailer, which I'm not going to mention. And I could not tell you how many people would come in and be like, first of all, like the distinction, it's just like a basic thing that makes my eye twitch when somebody comes in and they talk about clips, you know, like I was shooting this out of a clip and I'm just like, and I get it, you know, like it's a nerdy gun thing. I'm a nerdy gun guy. It's ridiculous that I care about stuff like that. But you know, it's just one of those things where you're like, oh man, like it's like putting diesel into a non-diesel engine, right? But there would be these people coming all the time, be like, does this take Stendo clips? Could I get one of them Stendo clips? And it just got to be like funny because it was like extended clip for a little while and then just got shortened to
Text speak, you know?
Stendo.
Text
you got any of them
speak has hit the
Stendos?
gun
And then
road.
the funny thing was we had this one dude who was super funny, and I can't remember, Casey I think was his name. And it was this jacked army dude. And we used to have the I think it was the Smith & Wesson 686-8-8. I don't remember, but it's the 686 that has the 8-round capacity. And when he would show it off to people, he'd be like, this is the only revolver that comes with them Stendo clips. You know, it's just always fun. And technically he's right because it does feed off of a clip. Like you actually use a clip to load the cylinder. But he'd be like, this is the only revolver that has that Stendo clip. So anyways, Stendo clip.
Stendo clip.
Follow me on the Instagrams, you know.
On the line.
On the line. Yeah, on the line.
We're very, very big Vince Vaughn fans here.
Be you know, just a good person. Keep me off of OnlyFans. Keep me from being a stripper. You know, support my gun
a lot
content.
of money in it, though.
Support my gun content so I don't have to sell feet pics.
This is a legitimate question that I have actually no idea the answer to.
Yes, the like disfigurations from hockey do make the feet really unique, but so far people haven't really seemed to be that interested.
It makes it a premium, doesn't it? No,
I don't know. I mean,
but
that's what I thought.
Could you do like exclusive, I don't know, gun pictures on OnlyFans? Like,
I think there are people who have done that. I really don't know what their policy is. I mean, it's like, look, if you could show the other things that they have on OnlyFans, but if I did it though, I would be like just like a magazine in and out of a gun.
Super sexualized.
Yeah. And then just faster. Anyways.
It's one of those bump stocks, guys. No, I'm
one
kidding.
of those bump stocks. Yeah, but there was a point when YouTube really cracked down, like maybe 5 years ago, I don't even remember, and like In-Range TV had moved over to like
Pornhub.
Yeah, it was Pornhub, I'm pretty sure. So I don't think we can say that on YouTube. We'll have to like bleep that out. But there's a really big, you know, site that has not good stuff on it. And but they were like,
hey, a hub for all kinds of content.
I really don't care. Like if you can.
Honestly, given the way things have cracked down on that particular site, maybe they should go back to that. That might be a better.
It's just like, you know, YouTube's a whole discussion, and who knows, you know, we might get taken down for even having this discussion. But we're getting to the point where there's intellectual property theft that's going on YouTube. And what I mean by that is there's a lot of people out there. I know Grantham is suffering through this right now. But, you know, you put a lot of work. I work for a big firearms company, and which we can't mention, can't even say the name of on YouTube, but I work for a big firearms company where it's like all this work that you put into creating the content to be where everybody is. You know, it's like if you want to have a business these days, you have to be on Facebook, you have to be on Instagram, you have to be on YouTube. And you spend money and you build this product and you put it on YouTube, and then it's completely deleted by YouTube arbitrarily with basically no real
compensation for that.
There's no compensation for it for sure, but there's really no appeal process. Like most of the appeal processes are just like, we decided no. It's like you make an appeal. And it's like, does a human actually look at this? It's just all, and that's the thing. Like it's AI based. Like most of their censorship now is AI based. So you're not even getting taken down by a human being. Like you're just being targeted by an algorithm, and it's just really sad. It's really sad. It's the degradation of free speech, really. I mean, I know that the Second Amendment only applies to the government, and I'm very aware that YouTube is a public First Amendment. Sorry, yeah. I'm very aware that YouTube is a public company, or not a public, but a private company that can do whatever they want. However, I really do think that there's an argument to be made. Everybody has to be there.
They are the public square, though, and that's really. And we are seeing this. Because obviously technology and stuff's changed so much, and everything's gotten so digital. We are starting to see finally some arguments in Congress. Now, granted, they're not exactly intelligent ones all the time about what is the public square today. And the question, and it absolutely applies to the digital universe. Same reason why, like, your AR-15s are covered by the Second Amendment, right? They didn't have them back then. No, but they allowed the opportunity for advancement in the.
And you can make the argument too that, like, here's the deal. Like, yes, YouTube is a private company, but we have seen both from X, we have seen from Facebook at this time bona fide, real evidence that administrations had been pressuring them to either post or not post things. If you have gone along with that, you have lost your status. In my opinion, you've lost your status as a private company because you've allowed the government to come in and basically control things. So, anyways, I mean, I'm biased. I'm biased here, but it's ridiculous. Like there's a lot of things. I'm based for sure. For sure, based, dude. Like. Based or GTFO. Super based, my guy.
Bro.
Yeah, bro. I'm just looking for a based wife. So,
Hey,
again,
if you know anybody,
ST.
hit that in the comments. There might be some, OF.
Oh God, don't do that. No, I don't want that. No, but again, it's sad that we kind of exist in this space. And one of those things that's been targeted by YouTube, here's me coming in with the segue, has been suppressors. There was actually a period when you couldn't show, and I think it's still kind of ambiguous, with showing threading a suppressor onto a gun.
Because, screwing something onto something is...
Yeah, threading something is like...
I shouldn't say screwing.
Oh, my God. I can't even get into it. But one of the things that we want to talk a little bit about is some of the changes that are coming up with the NFA. And just NFA items in general, and mainly we're gonna focus as mainly on suppressors. We're gonna talk a little bit about SBRs and SBSs because I do think that that's worth discussing. But the thing that I want to talk and really stress about suppressors is my blood boiling. Suppressors are a safety device. They are not a crazy accessory. They are extremely
an assassin's tool.
Yeah, they're not an assassin's tool. They're extremely not regulated throughout most of the world. In fact, most places, I believe it's either Finland or Norway. I don't remember. Maybe Finland. Like, they're not even serialized. It's the same as a muzzle brake. Like, it's just an accessory you put on the gun to make the gun more comfortable and ultimately safer. Like, the idea is we want to bring down hearing damage. This goes all the way back to Hiram Percy Maxim. You have the Maxim machine gun, the inventor, his father of the Maxim machine gun. He's losing his hearing and really wants to create something to make shooting more enjoyable for his father, where he's not going to lose a basic sense, right? And that goes to also in Europe now, hunting, shooting without suppressors is considered rude and inconsiderate. Just like when somebody blitzes through the old neighborhood at 3 a.m. without a muffler on their car, you're like, I want to get my gun and my suppressor out and blow some tires. Mm-hmm. But the idea behind it, and muffler for the car, gun suppressor.
Had the same inventor.
Same design. But the whole point is it is a safety device. It's not something to be afraid of. There's a lot of people out there who are just like, for some reason, they're scared of suppressors. Suppressor technology, and this is a great point that we have talked about this before. Suppressor technology has been suppressed because of legislation. Mm-hmm. The NFA has really prevented the extensive, I think, innovation into the suppressor space because it's been so restrictive, but now we're seeing a massive explosion, in the technology that goes into manufacturing, designs.
And you can 3D print. And when we say, I'm gonna preface this here for all the politicians listening. When we say 3D print suppressors, we're talking like B&T.
Manufacturers.
Which is a Swiss company. Doing it with titanium.
Yeah, but they make them in the U.S.
They do. I'm just saying. I'm saying like they're 3D printing titanium suppressors, and I'm just gonna say, regardless if you're a gun person or anything like that, if you're just someone who loves to watch, machinery at work, which I'm definitely one of those. Maybe that's my dad's engineering coming at me. That's just super freaking cool that we can do that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that really changed the landscape of suppressors, because before you would basically have to choose between titanium and Inconel, right? Okay. Inconel, super heavy, very heavy, and it makes a difference. I mean, if you have a duty rifle, you have guys who are running around doing whatever kind of work that they're doing. When you have to put a pound or a pound and a half on the end of the firearm, you already have a PEC, you already have a light, you already have all this stuff. It really starts to weigh down, but that's what you needed for that heavy duty use. So it was like either heavy duty use, heavy suppressor, or you could do titanium, but really only rated for bolt action rifles or really slow shooting, because titanium is, and now we're to the point where it's like we have full auto rated titanium suppressors that weigh, like the Banish 9K weighs 2.7 ounces. One of the most impressive suppressors on the market is the Huxworks 9K TI, full auto rated for 9mm, and it also shoots 300 blackout subs and supers, which again for a titanium suppressor is insane.
Put this in there for our father, who's a Air Force fighter pilot. It's the same stuff, kids, that they made the Blackbird out of. That's super cool.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's very cool to see. And now we're seeing like custom metal mixes that companies are putting out, but that technology is really advancing. But things are changing, right? So we're moving forward.
Just a couple weeks away from that.
We're a couple weeks away. You don't have to pay that $200 incredibly unconstitutional tax stamp. I could be wrong. Remind me. There was a Supreme Court ruling when they tried to pass a 50-cent tax on newspapers. I think it was newspapers.
It was.
And it was shut down at the Supreme Court.
Guess where that was? It was the Star Tribune versus Minnesota.
And they were trying to pass this 50-cent tax on these newspapers, and they said, well, you can't do that because newspapers are covered by freedom of the press, which is a constitutional right, and you can't tax a constitutional right.
That's correct.
But somehow machine guns, short-barreled rifles, short-barreled shotguns, and then something that's not even a gun, a suppressor, you have to pay $200 tax stamp on. But we're not going to get into that. There's a lot of exciting things that we're looking forward to. So obviously the big, beautiful bill. This is one of those things, man, that I'm going to call out the Republicans on. I'm going to call out kind of the Trump administration on. Very much so. Excited that the $200 tax stamp was removed. Very disappointed with how it was done, how they backed down from the entire suppressor. Should have been removed from the NFA completely. It was something that they allowed to basically remain in there.
If you want to, I know I kind of joke about getting nerdy, but if we were to actually get nerdy on cans just for a brief moment, you're talking about regulating something. You're talking about restricting something. You're talking about excising a significant tax on something that has no mechanical capabilities
in and of itself.
By itself. It doesn't move. There's no moving parts. There's nothing. That would be like taking a pencil, like an old number 2 pencil, and being like, I'm going to regulate this. It's the same thing. It by itself cannot do
I don't even think it would be like that. It would be like, I'm going to regulate erasers on pencils.
That'd probably be better. Because a pencil's an entire. Yes, but you get the point. There's nothing that it can do by itself. I could set that eraser right here on this table, and then set a piece of paper with writing on it, and nothing is getting erased. Why? Because I physically have to be the thing that makes that eraser work. The suppressor, you can sit it right here on this table. It's not going to suppress anything because the gun and the user is what makes it do something.
Yeah.
And it might be, you could correct me if I'm wrong, it might be almost the only thing in society that has no in of itself mechanical capabilities that we look at.
Villainized.
Yeah. I mean, I can't think of anything.
Yeah, it's kind of insane.
There's less there's less regulations on knives that have pretty large destructive capabilities even up by themselves.
Oh yeah, the knives aren't serialized.
Yeah,
you don't have to get fingerprinted to buy a knife. I could go buy an 11-inch buck knife right now.
We got some long ones right over there.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you just think about that, right?
This was used to take down cavalry. That's a really, really good point. It's kind of crazy that we did have that. And again, like I really just want to. I'm extremely angry with the Republicans because they're kind of the reason I'm angry with the Republicans, and I do not consider myself necessarily a Republican. I'm very much so a libertarian. We've had some disagreements on some things.
I'm conservative.
I'm a libertarian. I'm a constitutionalist. That's where I fall in. But one of the things that I really hate is like the Republican Party kind of sells themselves on being the protectors of the Second Amendment, the super pro-gun, which I'm a big believer in. Guns should not be a partisan issue. No. For all the people who are really angry with the current administration, I am in favor of you having guns to protect yourself from that administration that you don't like and are afraid of, just as when another administration gets in that maybe I don't like, which I'm kind of on this administration, but when another administration gets in that I don't like, I want to have guns to be able to protect myself against that administration. It really should not be a partisan thing. That's a whole other discussion for another time.
Well, Bill of Rights is something you sign on to and you raise your hand saying you will protect.
Right.
Regardless of party.
You know? So, but with that being said, the NFA should have been basically just thrown away and definitely back down on that. But we don't have that tax anymore. The tax was removed. It's a $0 tax moving forward from Jan 1, 2026. In fact, there's a blackout going on right now with e-forms.
Well, it starts the
26th. The blackout that's going to go for a week for that processing, which also really sucks, which I'm not going to get into, but that's a whole other rant.
I will say this. We're here at 2FC Tactical, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this. Just so you know, that's going on for FFLs too. So, for instance, if there's something that you want acquired, I'm going to be careful how I say this on YouTube. If there's something that you want acquired by a federally licensed firearms dealer, what most people don't know, the NFA exists for us too. So just because we can offer up certain items to the general public doesn't mean that we don't have some regulations on the back end. There is the Form 4 that everyone's familiar with, which is a transfer from like an FFL to an individual. There's the Form 3, which is an FFL to FFL transfer. So we still have to get permission for the shipment of the item that we're acquiring, despite the fact we pay special licenses and go through all this stuff to say that we can legally engage in commerce of these items. So just so you know, if your local dealer doesn't have something you're looking for and he says he can't get it, he's telling you the truth. Yes, there's a massive demand that makes it harder to get stuff anyway, but we also can't move anything back.
I can't wait. I am very much so against registration in the NFA, but I really can't wait to see the numbers that come out after January on how many items get added.
I think the last I saw, it was like 3 million suppressors in civilian hands.
I know that's going to big double. Shout out to Chris Eager, who does a lot of study on the NFA. I believe the 10-year period from 94 to 2004, when they cleaned up the e-forms and they cut down the times, which is a huge shout out to the American Suppressor Association, the reason why suppressors are illegal in Minnesota as well. The same amount of suppressors went in like a month that went in the 10-year period from 1994 to 2004, which is pretty impressive when you really think about it.
Well, I do know. I mean, we've kind of mentioned this before, and I think we did this in maybe our first episode, about how, the NFA or the assault weapons ban goes into effect, and there was less AR-15s before the assault weapons ban, and then more afterwards. The entirety of suppressors from 1934 to, I think it was 2015, if I went and looked at it, if I remember correctly, it was like 800,000.
Yeah, it was low. I thought it was over a million, but you're right. It was really low.
And then
all of a sudden it's like
boom. Now we're over 3 million, and you just go.
And what's going to happen after Jan 1?
I mean, you
might even double.
You can even see the reality of this. Like if you went into a shooting range, 20 years ago, no one's got one. Not a single person in that shooting range.
It's like kind of like nods are now. You're like, oh, bro, you got a suppressor?
Yeah.
And nowadays it's like, Excuse me, we're at an indoor range. It's incredibly friggin' rude of you to be shooting without a suppressor. Yeah, like...
Sorry, YouTube. You
can borrow this if you could just shut up while you're shooting. Yeah. I've talked about this multiple times, but I go to a lot of shooting events for work, obviously, and when I show up somewhere and there's a shooting event and the guns aren't suppressed, I was like, what is this? What are we living in? Is this 1914? Like, we should have suppressors.
Actually, it should have been older than that, because wasn't the suppressor invented in like 1909?
So, fun fact, a lot of people don't know this. Big proponent for suppressors. I'm going to give him second best president in U.S. history, Theodore Roosevelt.
Oh, yeah.
Big fan of suppressors. Teddy. He loved suppressors, old Teddy. He thought it was super important. And we don't have it on the wall. Do we have it on the wall? It might be at our personal collection. This is some of our personal collection. But there's a 1903 that I have. The 1903 was actually suppressed by order of Teddy Roosevelt before he was president. I believe he was the Secretary of War, Secretary of the Navy. I don't remember.
Something like that.
And he had put forth to have suppressors added to, I'm probably butchering the story, but he had put forth to have suppressors added to 1903s. It wasn't very many, but it was for boot camp. And the idea was all these guys who were doing these qualifications, they should protect their hearing, right? So he does that, and then a bunch of generals in the army got all up in arms because if you put a suppressor on a gun, you can't put a bayonet on a gun, and it's more important to have a bayonet than to have a suppressor. Now look at us. Look at us now. Now we're going back to suppressors.
I will say this. We found a way to do both because the AR-15 theoretically could have a bayonet.
Yeah, I think there's
and you can also put a can on it. So I'm just saying
there's ways.
Gotta love the American ingenuity. We will find if the generals are just so damned and determined to do it. Fine, we'll just invent a way to do both.
Yeah. Put a knife on a suppressor. Why
can't we have both? Damn it, that's what I say.
Absolutely. It's America, isn't it?
Yes.
In the words of El Paso Tacos, ¿por qué no los dos? You know? Super exciting. So the big thing that I want to address before we get off of here is so obviously this big beautiful bill eliminates this tax, and the really exciting thing about that is the tax, the NFA in general, is basically it only has legs if there is a tax, right?
Correct. The Censorship case of 1937, Supreme Court ruled that the NFA can stay in effect because it is not a gun law. It is Congress exercising its taxation clause powers and just a registry of taxes collected. And I will say this. When people say, well, I've heard this too. Well, you know, the Supreme Court's overruled precedent before. And that is true. It has overruled precedents. You know, there was Brown versus Board of Education and a few others that were awful decisions, right, that were overruled. But the one thing that the Supreme Court, in this particular Supreme Court, has not done, despite the fact I think they should, is overruled the Miller case of 1936, which basically allowed the NFA to stay in. Didn't really make a decision one way or another because Stephen Miller had died before he had actually made it to the Supreme Court. He was not a good individual. And they kind of like, well, theoretically, we don't see any military use for these, which is very interesting because they had a military use clause. If it was useful for military service, it presumptively was allowed. But since short-barreled shotguns, according to the Chief Justice, he was incorrect. I'm not saying he wasn't. He said that, well, there's no military use for these short-barrel shotguns, despite the fact that we used them in World War I. Therefore, they presumptively were not protective. However, you know, bring us someone who's actually alive and will rule on this, and it hasn't been touched since then. And we've seen Heller, and we've seen McDonald, and we've seen Bruin all reference to the Miller case.
Yeah, so
the odds are that they will probably not overrule the.
And the ASA is currently suing on this. So since bringing up that case, basically saying like there's no tax, there's no NFA. That's your words. Your words. You know that like I wrote that down. You remember when you said this? So hopefully we're going to see the NFA go away. Hopefully soon. We're really hoping for it. It's incredibly unconstitutional. Again, we've talked about this in the last episode. It's kind of assuming that people are guilty and forcing them to prove their innocence. But let's talk just very briefly here about short-barreled rifles, because this is a question that I get a lot. There are a ton of people out there who are like, hey, first of all, there's a lot of people who think that now that the tax is going to go away, that it's going to eliminate braced firearms. And there's a lot of people out there who are like, I'm waiting for Jan 1 so that I can SBR a bunch of my pistols. And I'm just going to tell you right now, I do not recommend that at all. When you SBR a firearm, there are so many laws and regulations. And if you just want to, we talk a lot about the federal government and why the federal government sucks. And I'm just going to tell you right now, the government is probably one of the stupidest, like the laws that come out of the federal government in regards to firearms, and a lot of them are not even laws, but just rulings by the ATF. It's so just asinine. It's like a child could realize that this is stupid, right? Let's just say that this is a pistol.
Actually, even better. Like, for instance, let's just say you went through all the hoops. You got yourself a FOID card, right, for Illinois. So you got your firearm purchase card, your little permission slip that I don't believe in, but you got it. You go out and you buy a Glock 17. Unfortunately, it's only got 10 rounds because it's Illinois and they suck at this. And you decide, hey, I want to, now that the NFA tax stamp goes to $0, I would like to convert this into a stocked SBR. That gun that you legally bought in Illinois is now, the moment you do that, will be denied, by the way. It will be denied by the ATF because it would make it illegal in that state.
Right. Even though you technically made it safer to shoot.
Right, but the base firearm was legal. Right. But the application of the, and so that's why Alexander here is correct. We do not recommend you to SBR these things. First off, you're willingly putting something on a registry that the government has. Never willingly do that kicking and screaming. I said the same thing when they were doing amnesty registration for SBRs. I was like, guys, don't do this, because the reality is
we're Americans, like, do not comply with crap like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people will say, well, you're being hypocritical because suppressors. It's like, well, we don't have an alternative. We don't have an alternative for suppressors, number one, and number two, suppressors are, like, you could make an argument that suppressors aren't actually firearms. They're just accessories. So it's like, if you're going to show up to my house and be like, oh my God, I'm not putting a firearm on the registry. I'm putting a suppressor on the registry. Right. I feel like it's a little bit different. But the other thing too,
principle does stand. I get them there though. Yeah.
So like, let's just say that this was a brace, right? You have this. Again, if we were to go in and we SBR this and you put on the real stock for this, all of a sudden I can't take this across state lines without notifications. I can't really be just carrying this around,
You can't use it for really for personal defense.
It's really something that's supposed to be on my property. There's just a lot of registration restrictions that are going to come with that, and it's just not worth it. And so I'm going to make the argument for a lot of people out there, like, well, this is going to kill the pistol braces. I think pistol braces are going to continue to be like braces out there. First of all, pistol braces are the epitome of why the NFA is like, it's a made up stupid thing that the government needs to get rid of. It does not do anything at this point, especially, we have that AP5 SD on the wall, and that is a braced firearm. That is a pistol brace right there.
I would make the argument that the gun industry has virtually, if they hasn't completely neutered, it has made the National Firearms Act completely ineffective.
I take a great pride in.
Yeah,
great pride, because that is the American spirit. As you try to restrict my constitutional right, absolutely. Like, I will find a way to obey the letter of the law.
And then, because you think of FRTs have basically made machine guns.
Oh yeah, FRTs have made machine guns.
Suppressors have become so easy to acquire and now that the tax going to zero, now they are still regulated in that sense. Brace pistols have basically made SBRs, SBSs. The moment they said the Mossberg Shockwave 590 wasn't an SBR or SBS, or that's a short barrel shotgun for those out there. You just go like, okay, then this is over. And I'll be honest with you, I remember, and this was kind of along my firearms journey that we talked about in the first episode, was I do remember when the ATF came out and said that you could shoulder pistol brace firearms. And then I sat there.
No.
They said no, and then they came back and then, no, we're kidding. Yes, you can. And I'm just going, the moment you say that's okay, then it's over. Like,
so,
it's over.
like, that's a fun little thing, and we'll kind of maybe end on this, but it was really funny when that first happened. I remember when that first happened because I had built.
People were shooting.
Yeah, you could only put it up to your cheek. So and you can go out there. There's all these YouTube videos of people who have these.
They haven't taken them down, but yeah.
Yeah, they have these. They have these braces, and they're just like right up against their cheek, and they're like, "I'm not shouldering it. I'm not shouldering it." It's like, "I'm not touching them. I'm not touching them. I'm not touching them," and then. I believe it was SB Tactical who sued, and they were like, "Hey, like, you can't do that. Like, you can't tell people, like, you can't say." I think the way that it said in the letter, if I remember correctly, was it fundamentally changes the purpose of the brace if you put it to your shoulder. And they're like, "Hey, something doesn't fundamentally change based on where you place it on your body. Like, a thing is a thing. It doesn't matter. The thing is the thing. So it's either allowed or it's not allowed." And then they ended up kind of coming back and legitimately, like, the too long to read version of their letter was, "JK,
you're saying
you can."
That seems like a good. Well, we won't go into a trans joke there, but
anyways. The ATF sucks. The point is the ATF sucks. The NFA sucks. The federal government sucks. And you should exercise your rights. Be excited that we're getting deregulation coming to those NFA items. Be careful about those SBRs. I really do. I just think that it's not necessarily the best thing that you can do. But that's...
don't do it. And just so you know, the reality is... If you have a pistol brace on your firearm or a stock on your firearm, an SBR, the odds that someone is going to understand the difference, that like a cop pulls you over, they're not. It's virtually unenforceable.
There's no understanding on, Anyways, we can do a whole thing on how little the ATF or the federal government actually informs law enforcement about gun laws. But, I mean, you get to the point where it's like it's hard to keep up with gun laws. There's so many of them out there. They change state to state. And they do that on purpose. They 100% do that on purpose.
I mean, and you can see where the average person, too, and I do think that this will come up in these lawsuits where, I walked into a big box store, name it, you all know these box stores, and I buy a AP5 SD, right, with this pistol brace. And I walk out, I do my background check, I do everything legal. I walked out. This was my big argument during the Biden administration's trying to mandate that all pistol braces were now SBRs. It's like, so they walked out, right? In that moment, it was legal, and that is as deep as 98% of people go. It's the same reason, like, I have a car, right? I have a Ford F-150. Do I know all the recalls on my car? No, I'm not running the VIN number every day. I'm not a car guy. Yes, I own one. I drive it every day. I bought it. If the mechanic doesn't tell me there's something wrong that needs to get fixed, I don't know unless something's acting up, right? So, and I think that this is the argument that the gun industry needs to get better on is the reasonable understanding of the consumer or the citizen standard, which there is Supreme Court law that you have to reasonably understand that you broke the law. It's never applied to gun laws. There's over 300,000 gun laws in the United States when you consider federal and state. I'll be honest with you, I study this stuff pretty extensively. You know that. I don't know all of them. There's no way to know all of them.
No, there's no way.
Like 98% of them, it feels like, are in California, moving over here to Minnesota. But regardless, like the reasonable standard that the Supreme Court did establish back in the 70s and 80s, that you have to reasonably understand what you're being charged with. This infuriates me. Is like, why is guns always exempt from this? Like, I went to a big box store, bought this thing, walked out with it, and then 5 years later, you guys changed your mind on what I could own. And this is not limited to the Biden administration. The same people who bought AR-15s during the assault weapons ban. All this has happened many, many times, right? Amnesty registered machine guns that came back from wars, right? This has happened a bunch of times, and then all of a sudden you guys change your mind, and what? I'm supposed to be up on this 24/7, 365?
Oh, yeah. It's ridiculous.
Like, how is that possible?
Again,
my rant's over.
The government sucks,
Yeah. Because they're always exempt from all this. I just got to throw that out
there. Yeah. All the politicians who want to take your gun rights away, they're all utilizing firearms that you're not allowed to own.
Looks just like these.
Yeah. Wow. P90s, Uzis, all kinds of stuff that you're not allowed to have. But rules for thee apply not to me.
Yeah, that's a good way. That's probably a good way to end this. I know this is a shorter.
In the words of George Washington, me and my homies would have been stacking bods by now. No, I'm just kidding. He didn't actually say that, but I'm sure he would if he spoke the modern vernacular. But yeah, that's it's kind of just some of the updates, some things that you should be aware of going into 2026. I can't believe we've made it to 2026. Kind of crazy in of itself.
Just so you guys know, our next episode most likely will come out in 2026. And with that,
we're taking a little break. We're going to spend some time with family.
We do want to say Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year's to each and every one of you.
Remember the reason for the season.
Yes.
We talked about that in the last episode.
Yes.
It's the birth of Christ, our Savior. It's so important. It can get lost in everything. It's not about gifts. It's about the gift, and how important that is for everyone out there to understand what the free gift of salvation is, what a blessing it is to have a God who gives us grace. So.
And we did this in the last episode, but I do want to say, if you really, really want to understand Christmas, Charlie Brown's Christmas, Linus explains it pretty well.
Linus explains it pretty well, absolutely.
And
to borrow from Pete Holmes, the comedian, a lot of people get offended by Christmas. They prefer people say Happy Holidays. So I've made it a point to be like, may the birth of the one and only God, the Savior, Jesus, be with you this season. But seriously, I hope everybody has a blessed Christmas, some time to spend with their family and just reflect on the grace that we've been given, the forgiveness of sins, the way to salvation. What a blessing that is. And
do take time with your family, everyone.
Take time with your family,
I think
sure.
if there's something, when we're filming this and when you watch it, just probably a few weeks ago, we saw the horrific tragedies that happened to Brown and over in Australia. And that's just, and of course, life is short. And it can be it could just be you walk out on the street and you get hit by a bus, right?
Cancer, heart attack.
And we've had a lot of that lately here in our community. Very prominent people here in New Prague that's happened. So again, do take those moments. And I think if there's anything that can come out of stuff like this is to put the reflection on what actually matters. Like, yes,
not
Christ,
the government.
No, never the government.
Never the government.
And your individual rights and freedoms, of course, but your family, those that are around you, those that care about you. Don't worry so much about the people who don't know you and don't know who you are. Obviously, represent yourself well always, but take these moments, because that's really what that's what Christmas is all about, Charlie Brown. It's remembering the gift that did come, and also what is actually important in life. And it's those moments when individuals, in fact, it even says that Mary treasured all those in her heart, as all these things were happening at the very first Christmas on December 25th, the year of our Lord, 0000.
Yeah, because that was the date.
That's what they put on the DeLorean. I don't know. But anyway, till next time, guys, please like, comment,
Merry
subscribe.
Christmas.
We'll see you in 2026. We'll give you an update kind of on how the Big Beautiful Bill rollout is going, and those wait times a little bit, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of things to talk
pretty
about.
Early in 2026, we'll be at SHOT Show. We'll probably do a show while we're at SHOT Show.
That will be a lot of fun. We'll get to see a lot of exciting new things in the firearm industry, and I mean, it's Vegas, baby. I mean, it's the land of Elvis.
Land of Elvis.
Elvis was a gun owner, by the way. So,
yeah. All right. Thank you all very much. We'll see you.